Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome into the Hayden Coker Show. We are back, and this is week 10 of college football. We've got a fantastic week ahead of us. Great games this coming weekend. We've got Auburn and Vandy coming up. We've got Alabama, LSU. We've got Kansas State and Texas. We've got Oregon State and Colorado, Ole Miss and A&M. We've got a bunch of nice games coming up over this weekend. Fantastic weekend ahead for football, and I'm very excited about it. And I know my buddy here, Nels Williams, is as well. Nels Williams is my guest today. He is a senior sports media analytics student at Virginia Tech. He's a co-host of The Drive on ESPN Blackburg and an ACC Network Extra sideline reporter. Nels, welcome into the show, man. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Hayden. It's a pleasure to have me on. Thanks for having me on as well. I'm really happy to be here.
Man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being on, and I know everybody here watching will as well. It's going to be a great show, Nels, and thank you for coming on once again. Nels, I want to ask you a few things about you yourself real quick. So for those of you who don't know, Nels Williams is a student at Virginia Tech. He's a senior. Nels, I want to ask you about your experiences at Virginia Tech real quick. So when it comes to your favorite game that you've covered at Virginia Tech, what would have been your favorite? Any sport?
Oh man, last fall I covered men's basketball, so it's pretty much every game. So there's definitely a few of those. I was there when Virginia Tech beat Virginia as well as UNC. Those were pretty good games. That was when Virginia Tech, I think Virginia was ranked top 5 and UNC was 6th in the nation. So those are fun games. I was at the ACC tournament for men's basketball, and I was actually on the court for after Duke won, so that was a fun game. But I think my favorite game though that I've covered has probably got to be Virginia Tech versus Pitt. Just a few weekends ago, that was a Saturday night game in Blacksburg. I was on the field for it. I was reporting for 3304 Sports, which is Virginia Tech's multimedia student journalism organization that I'm also a part of. And just being on the field for that, being in front of the marching band, being just able to soak in that entire atmosphere of a Saturday night in Lane Stadium, and just a total beatdown as well of Virginia Tech was so much fun. I've had a lot of great experiences as a fan as well. I was a fan, actually. I was supposed to be reporting for the Purdue game that got rained out. And that was like a 6-hour rain out. Fortunately, I was not. Fortunately, no equipment got rained on that day. But yeah, I definitely would say that Virginia Tech versus Pitt so far has been my favorite game to cover, just because I was on the sidelines for that, and I was able to just soak that all in. And a press conference when Brent Pry is happy, he usually provides better quotes than when he's not happy. So that definitely too was a plus post game.
Yeah, I saw his post game interview, and I saw also a not too popular post game interview as well with Pat Narduzzi. Did you see that? Did you see that interview?
I did. Are you talking about the one after Virginia Tech or the most recent one after Notre Dame?
The most. Yeah. Oh, you say yes. It would be Notre Dame. Was it Notre Dame where he kind of threw his players under the bus?
Yeah. He flat out was like, I think the quote was a little bit taken out of context, but even then it wasn't that great of a quote. It was something like, we got our players out of the portal, but they weren't good or something. It was still a bad quote. It was everywhere, and I saw a lot of players reacted not too kindly on Twitter about that too.
Yeah, I saw it, and my first thought was, wow. And he said it was something, yeah, like something along with what you said, and it was just one of those quotes where you scratch your head and go, what in the world is this guy thinking, and he's just throwing his players under the bus when they could easily just not play for him at all. So I was kind of confused about that. Obviously, it's going to be tough. I mean, you don't have the quarterback that you once did, especially with Kenny Pickett being gone. And I'm honestly not sure who their quarterback is. I thought that a few years ago, was it Patty? Was that his last name? They came in a few years ago whenever they played. Now, this has been a few years, but it was when they played Michigan State, I think, in the bowl game. I think it was Patty that played, or the quarterback that came out then. Who was their quarterback a few weekends ago?
Would it be Phil Dracovic you talking about?
Yeah, from Boston College, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he transferred to Boston College, yeah.
So I remember a few years ago when Phil Dracovic was one of the players that some of the analysts were saying, this guy could be really good, and then just comes out and wets the bed for a few games that year, and then transfers to Pitt. And do you have any intel on how he's doing this year? He's doing a little bit better than he was, or was that Saturday night against Vate? Was that just kind of a bad game?
I haven't really been keeping up with Pitt, but what I do know is that there was rumors about Phil Dracovic moving to the tight end position, actually. And I think it all stems, I believe, don't quote me on this, but it was a wrist injury, or there was some really just it seemed like a minor injury at the time, but it impacted his throwing ability and his throwing motion. So prior to the injury, you're right. He was getting a lot of hype and he was getting a lot of insight and a lot of scouts looking at his name and looking at him as potentially one of the top quarterbacks in the ACC. But I want to say it was a wrist injury that really deflated and tanked his stock, and that ultimately led him to, or was a contributing factor to him transferring from Boston College to Pitt. But it hasn't been great. I know that he's been ranked towards the bottom 5 of the AC in the ACC in quarterback QBR, I think. But it hasn't gone out the way that Dracovic would have hoped to in Pitt, which really sucks because before the injury, I really enjoyed watching him play. But fortunately in Blacksburg, we have good quarterback play now that we did earlier in the season with Kyron Jones, though.
Speaking of Kyron Jones, and I'm going a little bit off script, but speaking of Kyron Jones, what do you think about the drone strike that people are using? Now, I have seen some people be quote unquote offended by this nickname, but I would like to get your opinion and what you think about how he has been playing this year, because you look at him against a few weeks ago, and he was just fantastic. But I have not gotten to watch him a lot this year, so I would like to get your input on that.
I think Kyron Jones has absolutely shined coming in replacement of Grant Wells. I think I'll say this. I think in the beginning of the season, Grant Wells being the starter was the right choice. There was reports coming out of training camp and out of practice over the summer and leading up to the season that Kyron Jones was still not as good of a passer as Wells. And you could see that. And you can still see that somewhat, is that Wells has, in my opinion, a much better arm. He has a much accurate deep ball, or more accurate deep ball than Kyron Jones. But in terms of what Tech was hoping to run in the beginning of the season, they ran Wells's package, which wasn't working. Wells gets injured. Kyron Jones comes into replacement. And although he played okay against Marshall and Rutgers, those were still losses. But what I like from Kyron Jones so far this season, and so far in his career at Virginia Tech, because he still has, I think, 2 or 3 more years of eligibility to him, is the fact that he's getting better every week. If you watch the tape of him, if you watch the highlights of him, he is getting better every week. And not only that, but the Virginia Tech offensive staff and the offensive coordinator, Tyler Bowen, is changing the play calling around him. When Drones was still first coming in, you could definitely see that there are packages designed around Grant Wells. There's a lot of RPOs, which are still running, but Grant Wells is a pass first, then run quarterback. He goes through his progressions, then he uses his legs if he has to, but he wasn't as much as he was last year and early on in the season. Kyron Jones he looks at the first few progressions and he knows he has the athletic ability and he knows he's talented enough to where he can take off and pick up a few yards on the ground. Now, not only is he good at that and scrambling, but that helps out Virginia Tech's running game as well. Heading into week 4, heading into Pitt, or week 5, or whenever they were heading into Pitt, Virginia Tech was abysmal in the ACC and nationally in rushing offense. They're averaging less than 2 yards per carry. I don't even know if they cracked 50 yards against Purdue. It was a very abysmal stat. I don't have it off the top of my head, but they couldn't establish the running game. And when you put in a running quarterback, your running game is going to be elevated as well. So I think overall, Kyron Jones, although his arm strength and his arm talent is still getting there, he's exactly the quarterback that Virginia Tech needs right now, because not only is he elevating his passing game by simply getting better every week and the coaching staff developing plays around him, but he's elevating the running game as well. Because if you put in a run pass option, or you put in some sort of play action, or you put in even a quarterback run for Drones, as we saw against Syracuse, which was an absolute beatdown, he can pick up a lot of yards. He's shifty enough to where he can make the extra move to elevate to the second level of the defense. And overall, he's just helping the offense in so many ways right now. And I would have to say I'm very impressed. And like I said, he's getting better every week. So I'm excited for where he has been now heading into week 10. And I can only imagine how he is towards the end of the year.
This is Nels Williams on the Hayden Coker Show. And Nels, you were talking about how Kyron Drones has improved so much over the course of the 10 weeks that we've seen him play, or a few weeks that we've seen him play. Grant Wills going out earlier in the year, but this is a Virginia Tech team that is 4-4, and hold on, 3-1 in ACC play. Nels, this is something I talked to you about the other day. This is a team that's not out of the ACC race yet. Now, something that I know a lot of people think, this team is 4-4. Do you really think that they can go on and win the ACC championship game? I don't think that they can go on and win. But for them to be 3-1 right now, and certainly in contention to at least be there, that is a step up from what this Vautech program has been over the past few years. Am I correct or no?
I would say you're correct. And I don't know about whether or not they can make it to the ACC. I don't know if they can win it because they lost against Florida State. But this is a really, really easy year if you look at Virginia Tech's schedule in the ACC. They dodged UNC, they dodged Duke, they dodged Miami, and they dodged Clemson, which you could still argue is not as good. Well, they aren't as good in the ACC as they used to be, but they're still overall a good team. This team, if Virginia Tech was just above average and really just a good team overall, could honestly just be the number 2 team without a doubt in the ACC. But while they are 3-1 in the ACC, right, you also have to understand that they beat Wake Forest, they beat Pitt, and they beat Syracuse. Almost all of all of those teams really are just in the bottom tier of the ACC. The biggest test is going to be this Saturday against Louisville. Brent Pry's not beaten a ranked team yet in his tenure and in his second year as head coach of Virginia Tech. He's yet to win also on the road. Virginia Tech has not gotten a road victory, but they are 3-1 at home in Lane Stadium. They beat ODU, lost to Purdue, 3-1 or 4-1. Either way, the only loss they came against Purdue at home. But they've yet to lose on the road. Louisville is still a very good team. So the fact that Virginia Tech is even at this point and controlling their own destiny, they win out right after Louisville. You have at Boston College, which Boston College is showing a resurgence, but Boston College still isn't that great of a team. You then have NC State, which they did just pick up that big victory against Clemson, but Clemson's not that great of a team. And then you have UVA, which UVA has shown a resurgence recently, but even then, they're still not that great of a team. So the fact that even right now Virginia Tech is even controlling its own destiny is quite hilarious to me, because it just shows just how crazy the ACC is. Whether or not they make it to Charlotte, I don't know. But if they do make it to Charlotte, I think they give Florida State a run for their money, because they are a vastly improved team compared to when they did play Florida State. But Florida State is still so much of a dominant force that I don't know if they can come out of Charlotte if they make it, which again, insane we've even got to that point with the win.
Absolutely. And you kind of just answered my question. Now 3 of the last 4 home games, I believe, are away, 3 of the last 4 games are away. Now, the home game in a few weeks against NC State. Say you go into Louisville this weekend and you lose that game. How crucial are those last 3 games in ACC play in order for Vautech to get to where they want to be?
Well, they're still absolutely crucial, because I think the goal right now, the goal heading into this season, was not make it to the ACC championship. I don't think anybody predicted Virginia Tech to be at this point. But the goal for Virginia Tech was to go bowling, at least 6 wins, at least 6-7 wins, and to go back and go bowling once more. Virginia Tech wins 3 to the next 4, they're 7-5. That should automatically qualify for a bowl game. And even if they lose to Louisville and let's say one of Boston College, UVA, or NC State, they're still 6-6. They're still bowl eligible. To go from 3-8 and then to see progress and see 6-6, 7-5 in the next year, and see all of these players in the transfer portal, which a crazy stat is that every player who scored a touchdown this year, this might have changed against Syracuse, I'm not sure because of how many touchdowns they scored, but every touchdown scored by Virginia Tech players so far this season has come from the transfer portal. They were not on the team last year. To see what Brent Pry has done through the portal in the offseason, to see improvement, to see the offense getting better, to see the defense leading sacks in the ACC and having 7 or 8 or just constantly pressuring Syracuse and holding up 0 rushing yards on the ground, that is improvement. That is what Virginia Tech fans want to see. That's what the organization wants to see. That's what the athletic department wants to see. And 6-6 or 7-5, especially, like I said, after this easy of a schedule in the second year of Brent Pry's tenure, will absolutely be improvement. And it's something that everyone will want to see, and getting Virginia Tech back to where the heights of the program was 10 to 15 years ago, and even 20 years ago when they were playing Florida State in 1999 in the national championship.
Nels, I'm going to ask you a few more questions, and I promise I'm going to let you go. And I promise I'll let you go after a few more questions. But I want to talk to you about the ACC championship game. Florida State obviously have a fantastic year so far. Have not lost yet. Do you see a loss coming on their future schedule?
Honestly, I don't. I really thought that Florida State would have a loss up until this point, but and with Duke, I think that if Riley Leonard stayed in that game, then maybe that would have been a loss in Tallahassee for Florida State. But Florida State is too much of just a wagon. Jordan Travis and Zach Benson. Pardon me, I'm pretty sure it's Zach Benson. I don't know the name off the top of my head, but Travis and Benson 2024. That's insane. Like that combination of quarterback running back is simply too good to be. Florida State's offense is so good, and their defense is great as well. But really, when their offense is scoring on what seems like every single drive, I don't see a Florida State loss for the rest of their schedule. And whoever they play in the ACC championship, I don't see Florida State coming out of there with a loss as well. So for Florida State and the Seminoles, I think it's safe to say that they're back. I know that this is Jordan Travis's last year of eligibility, so they really want to make sure that they get the most out of while he's still quarterback. But I think Florida State is not only back this year, I think they go undefeated, but they're going to be a contending force in the ACC next year as well if they target the transfer portal correctly. And who knows how they'll fare in the college football playoff too, as they're currently trending, I think, to be a number 3 or 4 seed by the time January rolls around, Hayden.
And Nels, of course, and something that I thought about a lot was because I didn't expect Florida State to go unscathed up until now either. I think what I thought was going to happen was them probably lose to LSU at the start of the year, and I believe I picked Clemson to beat them as well. But I'm a dummy, and I picked I'm a dummy, and I bought after the Clemson hype, and that was my fault. That was my fault. That's my bad to all the listeners out there. I know. And up until now, everybody listening, watching knows that I picked Clemson to go to the college football playoff. Sue me. All right, I did it. But this Florida State team, getting through those two teams alone, that's impressive because you went to Clemson, and I get last year you played it was still neutral site, but with it being in Louisiana, this year being a little closer to home in the neutral field against LSU, with them being undefeated right now is just a shocker to me. I did not think that was going to happen. I knew they were going to be a good team. I just did not think that they would be this good. Now, I think the hardest game on their schedule left is at Florida, and it's in the Swamp. That's the only thing for Florida State. Now, Florida, when they play at home, is for some reason just fantastic. Graham Mertz plays with a level of confidence that you see only very rarely. And I'll just say that Graham Mertz come a long way from Wisconsin. So I don't know. That's the game that I'm circling at the end of the year. I'm not saying that Florida knocks them off. I think they may. No, I'm not saying they will just yet. I'd have to wait a few more weeks, see how the rest of Florida season fares off because I still have Missouri as well. So
yeah, well, I was going to say Florida, that would be a loss. But after how they played against Georgia, which I really did think that was going to be a trap game. I really did think Georgia-Florida was going to be a trap game. I just don't really see it. I mean, I don't think that Florida is going to – you're right. They're at home, right, that you play in the Swamp. I think home field advantage matters a lot more in college football than people think. But I still think Florida State's going to handle them. I think Florida State truly is too much of an offensive juggernaut for Florida to be able to keep up with them. And while you're right, Graham Mertz at home, he's great. I just don't think that it's going to be more of just an offensive marathon, and whether or not Florida can keep up with them is going to dictate who's going to come out on top. That's why I'm just so confident in Florida State that I truly believe that they're going to have no issue against Florida. But if Florida fared better against Georgia than they did, in last Saturday, it wasn't that great of a game.
no.
That would be one thing, but unfortunately it didn't. So that is why I didn't say that Florida was going to be close. But you're right. I did actually forget about Clemson. That game was great. I didn't think it would be that close. I think that was a time when Clemson was still figuring out their identity. But like I said, Duke really was the only loss that I had circled on their schedule after Clemson because of how Florida fared against Georgia recently and how they're faring so far this season.
Yeah, and the thing with Florida is they're very spotty. The one week they're good, one week they're bad. You go into Davis Wade Stadium a few weeks ago, and you barely come out on top against a South Carolina team that, let's be honest, they're just not good. So I mean, Florida is a question mark in my opinion. Now, I don't think that I'm not saying that Florida at all. I'm not saying this at all that Florida beats Florida State, although I think it could be close with it being in Gators in the Swamp. But Florida, like you said, Florida State's just having an unbelievable year. And Jordan Travis is absolutely phenomenal. How about the transfer portal though, working in Florida State's favor? You go out and you get Keon Coleman from Michigan State. So you have these different players that that get in the transfer portal. They go to you have the Joe Burrows of the world a few years ago. Then you have the Keon Colemans of the world. Then you have the Graham Mertzes of the world. I'm not putting him in the category of Joe Burrow at all, but and it's just surprising. It's fantastic, and that's the thing about the transfer portal is that it's become a like a destination almost for players who failed at the first school. They want another chance, or maybe they just don't fit in at the first school. Or heck, maybe
Yeah, and speaking of the transfer portal, I mean, Antoine Powell-Ryland transferred from Florida as a defensive lineman to Virginia Tech, and currently he has 29 tackles, 9 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. I think he's projected to be a part of the first, second, or third team All ACC, All Conference team. And you know what? Virginia Tech heavily recruited him out of. He's a native of Portsmouth, Virginia. Virginia Tech has really focused recently in the past few years of staying in the state. He goes to Florida, transfers here to Blacksburg, puts on this show. It really goes to show that the transfer portal is the future of college football. In Virginia Tech's case, 40% of its roster currently right now is from the transfer portal. I mentioned not a single player that has scored a touchdown this season was on the roster, was a Hokie last season. It's the future of college football, Hayden. I mean, I don't think there's really any other way to put it. Without Antoine Powell-Ryland, Virginia Tech, I think, would have a loss or be below 500 because of how big of an impact and how much of a presence he's had so far this season for the Hokies. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's currently leading the ACC in sacks. I could be wrong about that. I know Virginia Tech has been blowing up the sack category, but like I said, I mean, 9 sacks, 29 tackles, 3 forced fumbles, 3 turnovers like that. That addition to the defensive line for Virginia Tech has completely elevated that room and made everybody on that front 7 in total just better.
Absolutely, and with how good he has been this year, like you said, they could easily be have one more loss than they already do, be 3-5 maybe or 2-6, who knows? But with him being there, having such a big impact on Vatek is just insane. Nels, I want to ask you one more question, and then I promise I will let you go. So we can know further a little bit about you with ACC Network Extra right now. And I know you haven't been there necessarily for that long, but what has been your favorite moment with ACC Network Extra?
Well, I've only done one game so far, actually. You said it
Okay.
yourself. I haven't been there for that long. But probably my favorite moment, though, was my first game. It was a few weeks ago. It was not last weekend, but the weekend before. I was doing sideline reporting volleyball for Notre Dame. And the report that I did was on Notre Dame's Lucy Trump, whose mother is a 2-time breast cancer survivor. And I was able to talk to her before the game about it, and just being able to foster that connection and just be able to tell her story and her mother's story really, to me, was just a dream come true. And being a sideline reporter and just having that moment of when I got to Castle Coliseum, where Virginia Tech plays volleyball and men's and women's basketball, I was just kind of a wow, I made it. I am sideline reporting for the ACC Network Extra. And unfortunately, I did have microphone issues. My night was cut short due to technical difficulties, but just the debut night and being able to say that I did that was incredible. And just being able to email an SID and say, hey, I am the sideline reporter for this game. My first hit is going to be coming out of XYZ break. It's going to be on Lucy Trump. May I speak to her before the game for a little bit, collecting quotes, putting that in there, and just being able to tell a story. That's mainly why I wanted to go into sports media analytics and become a journalist in the first place. I love how everyone has a story. Some people's stories are more quote unquote interesting or more you'd like to see than others, right? Some people go through a lot more adversity in life than others. That's just how life is. But I think everyone has a story in sports. There's so many stories. There's so many connections, right? You have For instance, Brent Pry, Virginia Tech's head coach, there's a streak, and I think it's still going, of where Pry was on some sort of roster or some sort of team where he had a connection to the current coach or current offensive defensive coordinator, being able to ask him and being able to see other journalists ask him just, what it was like playing with them, just what it's like coaching alongside them, what they've learned, just the connections. It's all just a big spider web. And I love just getting tangled up in that and hearing everyone's story. And being a sideline reporter, I don't know when my next assignment will be next, but being a sideline reporter, just saying that I was able to do it and saying I was able to hold a microphone that said ACC Network, ESPN below it was incredible. So hopefully this men's and women's basketball season goes well. I know women's basketball, Virginia Tech, if you don't know about them, watch, because they're going to be very good this year. But I can't wait for what the next few months have in store for me here at Virginia Tech and the ACC Network Extra in general.
Nels, man, I appreciate it. Big Virginia Tech guy, big Virginia Tech guy. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you giving us all your Hokie knowledge, if you will. And I appreciate you, and I hope you come back soon. And all of us here at the Hayden Coker Show, we appreciate what you do, and we wish you nothing but the best. Nels, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me on, Hayden. And yeah, if you ever want me on again, you got my number. So great to be on today, Hayden. And thanks for letting me talk about the Hokies tonight.
Absolutely. Oh, and real quick, Nels, I have somebody wanting to know who your Heisman pick is.
Ooh, okay. Okay, at this point, it's tough because I actually had Drake May as my candidate until UVA. UVA didn't do too great, right? It is Jordan Travis right now for me. I think that everyone is kind of fighting in on each other for the Heisman candidate, right? You had Caleb Williams leading. USC kind of makes their own grave and falls out of the college football playoff contention. Yeah. And then I thought it was Drake May. And then UNC not only lost to Virginia, but not Georgia Tech. He's out of the running. So for that reason, I really think it's going to be Jordan Travis or Michael Penix Jr. And like I said, I feel like every Heisman candidate is just fighting amongst themselves and kind of getting in their own way. So right now, I got to go Jordan Travis. I think the Heisman Trophy is going to go to Tallahassee. But for the remainder of their schedule, like we talked about Florida, who knows how that game's going to go. But right now, I think if I had to choose a Heisman candidate, 1 would be Travis, 2 would be Michael Penix Jr.
Nels, thank you, man. I highly appreciate it. And everybody here at the Hayden Coker Show appreciate you as well. Thank you, brother. Yeah,
of course. Thank you. If you want to follow me on social media, it's just right there. It's at Nels Williams. And thank you again for having me on, Hayden. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, big man. You have a good one, okay? Take care.
Thanks.
That is Nels Williams from Virginia Tech, senior media sports writer. Nels, thank you for joining us. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to pay the bills. The Hayden Coker Show is brought to you by J&K Tire. If you want $10 off on your next purchase, you can go to J&K Tire in Steele, Alabama, and just mention the Hayden Coker Show for $10 off of your next service or whatever you would like. The Hayden Coker Show is brought to you by Alex Farmer at Alabama Tractor. If you need a lawnmower, tractor, or implement, then you can go see my friend Alex Farmer at Alabama Tractor in the South's best little city of Asheville, Alabama. Alabama Tractor specializes in Kubota brand machines and equipment along with other brand items as well. They also have a huge part in service department to keep your machines up and running year in and year out. You can go see Alex and check out their large inventory and ask about their 0% financing. Alabama Tractor is located at 275 6th Avenue, Asheville, Alabama, and you can reach Alex at 205-594-7000. That's 205-594-7000. You can check them out on Facebook at Alabama Tractor, Asheville at Alabama Tractor. You can trust their machines and equipment to work just as hard as you do. Are you wanting to reset your vehicle to show room condition? Well, Tyler Meads at AIM Mobile Detail has got you covered with professional-grade ceramic coatings, paint enhancements, and corrections, and full interior and exterior details. You can call him now at 256-458-9949. That's 256-458-9949, or message him at AIM Mobile Detail on Facebook. Hey, Pell City, are you looking to spice up your morning routine? Well, try Chick-fil-A Spicy Chicken Biscuit made with a real boneless breast of chicken, seasoned with a spicy pepper blend and served on a freshly baked buttermilk biscuit just for you. You can stop by in the morning and enjoy Spicy Chicken Biscuit today. And that's Chick-fil-A in Pell City on Martin Street. Now, Nielsen, to answer your question about who I would like or who my pick is to win the Heisman this year, my friend, it's a very simple answer for me. And I have got the one, the only, Bo Nix. For those of you who don't know, Bo Nix went to Pinson Valley High School, and that's where my friend Nelson Holt went to high school as well, graduated in 2021. But yeah, Nelson, my pick for the Heisman is going to be Bo Nix, and I think he's just playing phenomenal right now. The defense is helping him out as well. He's playing fantastic, and I think he's going to eventually win the Heisman at the end of the year. So now I want to talk to you about my top 10. I'm going to eventually break it down to the top 4, but for now, I'm going to start at 10, and I'm going to break it all down for you. Coming in number 10 in the Hayden Coker Show top 25 is Oklahoma. Oklahoma took a tough loss this past weekend to a team also known as, Kansas University. Kansas, they went to Lawrenceville. They lost a good one. Jason Bean balled out. But you know what? That's going to happen. Upsets are going to happen. It's college football. But one thing about it is Oklahoma did not play well at all in that game. Jason Bean and that Kansas offense, they really showed them up on defense. They did not play good at all on defense. And Kansas they went out there, they did their thing, they balled out, and they went home. I say went home. Their fans did not go home after the game. Their fans rushed the field, took the goalpost down, and threw it into a nearby pond. So that's how Kansas nights went. And I'm pretty sure that they were up all night. Coming in number 9, I have Penn State. The Penn State Nittany Lions coming off a tough loss a few weeks ago to Ohio State, and then not playing well against a very bad Indiana team. Only win by 9 points. You win 33-24. Not a great performance, but you still come away with the win. Penn State is my number 9 team. Coming in at number 8, I have none other than the Alabama Crimson Tide. The Alabama Crimson Tide played a good game not this past weekend. They were off this past weekend. But a few weeks ago, they played a good game. You play Tennessee. You come from behind 20-7 in the first half. You end up winning that game 34-20. Hold Tennessee to scoreless in the second half. Just a fantastic display of defense in the second half by Alabama, and that's what you want to see from a Crimson Tide team that really struggled early on in the season, and now they're finally finding their groove. But you've got a tough team this weekend in LSU, but it's at Bryant-Denny Stadium. So Bama being my number 8 team. Coming in at number 7, I have the Texas Longhorns. Quentin Ewers has went down with an injury, but he should be back by the Big 12 championship game if Texas can win out. Coming in at number 6, I have the Washington Huskies. The Washington Huskies have struggled the past 2 weeks after coming off a big win against Oregon a few weeks ago. You struggle the past 2 weeks. You struggle against Arizona State, and then you struggle against none other than you struggle this past weekend. That's just not them. That's what is concerning to me about this Washington team is because 1 week they're good, the next week the past 2 weeks have not been great at all. And if you're Washington, you've got to have your head on the swivel. I get now this weekend you have USC. Now I get USC's going through a rough stretch, but look at what these college football teams have gone through. So, and I'm not just talking about USC individually. So you've got other teams who have lost or won and come back and been okay. USC went toe-to-toe against a California team that has struggled this year, not been great. I get they've got a really good quarterback in Jaden Ott, but they're just not great. And you go out and you struggle against them. You barely win the football game in overtime, 50-49. That's just not something you want to do. And if you're Washington, look out this weekend. I'm not saying that USC is going to beat you. Well, you're a 3.5-point favorite, but you're at USC. And I know USC's fans are not the greatest, especially since they've had a rough last few games, by the way. But just watch out. Just watch out. This is a number 24 team in the country that could make some noise. Now, you can say I'm wrong all you want, but I think that it's a little bit more than what some people are saying. Washington, fantastic win a few weeks ago. Fantastic win a few weeks ago against none other than the Oregon Ducks. But to come out and just kind of mess the bed. It just not a good look at all. And if you are Washington, you have got to get a win against a USC team that is struggling right now. You've got to get a win against them. You get a win against them, good, awesome, go for it. You know, you've got USC this weekend. You beat them, and then you've got a few teams. Actually, this is coming up on a rough patch for Washington. But if you get a win this upcoming weekend and you win convincingly, because I think that this is a Washington team that can do that. If you do that, then you have some momentum going into the rest of your schedule. Your rest of your schedule looks like this. You've got USC up next at USC. Washington at home. Washington did not play great this past weekend at all. Oregon handed it to you. You've got at Oregon State, and then you've got Washington State. So you have a few teams in there that you could slip up against, but we're going to see how it goes. Now, number 5, I have Oregon. Oregon, they played good this year, guys. Oregon's played good, but the big question is, can they finish the regular season off against a team like Oregon State? Oregon State is at the very end of the year, but Oregon's got some challenges. Oregon's got some challenges for the rest of the year. You had Washington, you beat them. You had Utah, you beat them. Good job. Utah, not the greatest team. Now I get they've had some struggles. They've had some strong games that they've played. They've played good in certain situations. But you just can't go out and you can't lose by 30 to an Oregon. I get this is a good Oregon team, but you can't go out there and lose by 30 to them. The rest of the Oregon schedule looks like this. You have California this weekend at home. Then you have USC at home. Then you go to Tempe and play Arizona State. Then you play Oregon State at home. So you don't have an easy rest of your schedule. Oregon State coming off a tough loss this past weekend. I get that. You play an Arizona team that's really rebounded over the past few weeks and come out and actually aren't having a bad season. But it's just I'm not sure. This Oregon team over the next few weeks are going to answer a lot of questions, in my opinion. Coming in number 4, I have none other than the Florida State Seminoles. Like my good friend Nels Williams said earlier. This Florida State team looks absolutely fantastic right now. And I really struggled putting them at 4 and not over Ohio State at number 3. But Ohio State having a big win against Penn State a few weeks ago really was the ultimate decision and led me to do that. Now, Ohio State is number 3. Coming in number 2, I still have the Georgia Bulldogs at number 2. I'd like to see more from Georgia. Now, you did play fantastic this past weekend. I'm not taking anything away from you. You played fantastic. You have nothing else to prove when it comes to SEC competition. But when it comes to that number 1 team in the country, I wholeheartedly believe right now that it is the Michigan Wolverines. The Michigan Wolverines have played fantastic ball this year, and in my humble opinion, that is the number 1 team. The Hayden Coker Show, number 1 team. Are you wanting to reset your vehicle to show room condition? Well, Tyler Meads and A Mobile Details got you covered with professional grade ceramic coatings, paint enhancements and corrections, and full interior and exterior details. Call him now at 256-458-9949. You can call Tyler Meads now at 256-458-9949 or message him at A Mobile Detail on Facebook. Hey, football fans, if you need a new lawnmower, tractor, or implement, you can go see my friend Alex Farmer at Alabama Tractor in the southwest little town of Asheville, Alabama. They have a huge service department to keep your machines up and running year in and year out. You can go see Alex and check out their large inventory and ask him about their 0% financing. Alabama Tractor is located at 275 6th Avenue in Asheville, Alabama. You can reach Alex at 205-594-7000. That's 205-594-7000. Or you can check him out on Facebook at Alabama Tractor Asheville. At Alabama Tractor, you can trust their machines and equipment to work just as hard as you do. Great ranking. Thank you, Nielsen. We do try over here at the Hayden Coker Show. Have you heard about the new seasonal chicken sandwich at Chick-fil-A? The new honey pepper pimento cheese chicken sandwich is a twist on the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. It features an original Chick-fil-A filet drizzled with honey, topped with pimento cheese, and served on a warm toasted bun with mild pickled jalapenos. Fantastic sponsors. Thank you to my sponsors. You are greatly appreciated. Coming in on the third segment, guys, I want to talk about some SEC picks this weekend and some non-conference games out of the SEC. Now, Virginia Tech, they've got a big game this weekend at Louisville. Shout out to Nels Williams for coming on earlier, senior media writer at Virginia Tech, and also with a sideline reporter at ACC Network Extra. But some of the SEC games we've got Auburn at Vandy. Auburn looked fantastic this past weekend against none other than, guess who? The Mississippi State Bulldogs. Now, Zach Arnett in his first year not doing too well, but it's his first year. It's going to be a tough year for him, especially with replacing Mike Leach. I think Auburn gets to win this Saturday in Nashville, but don't be surprised if this is a close game going into the fourth quarter. Alabama versus LSU. This is going to be a close one at home. Now, College Game Day is going to be there. and I'm going to say this pick for the end, but you look at what Jayden Daniels has been able to do in this offense this year. Jayden Daniels is easily one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Now, can the defense finally figure things out in a hostile environment in Bryant-Denny Stadium? I don't think that they do, but we'll see later on in the show. I'll let you guys know about that. Alabama's playing fantastic ball right now. You look at the beginning of the year, and now you look at now how they're playing, night and day. I mean, you can't compare the two because, I mean, of course you can compare them, but a while ago, let's roll the tape back 8 weeks. You get your butt handed to you at home versus Texas. Then you go on the road to South Florida, and you almost get beat there. That's just not ideal. Now, guess what happened? Guess what happens here? You come back, you win what? 6, 7 straight games. All right. You're officially sitting at 1 loss. You win against LSU this upcoming weekend. You are in the driver's seat to win the SEC West. Now, if Alabama can end up doing this, I picked Alabama to win the West at the beginning of the year. Now, you had a few slip-ups. You played some bad football, but you're playing your best football that you played all year right now. I think that Alabama has a chance to win out and maybe even possibly beat Georgia and go to the playoffs. We'll see. Now, Kansas State at Kansas is also this weekend. This is going to be a tough one because Texas is currently missing their starting quarterback. Kansas State, they're coming off a big win. You got the two big teams in Kansas and Kansas State, playing phenomenal ball right now. So I would not be surprised if Kansas State knocked off Texas, but with it being in DKR, I am going to go ahead and take. No, I'm not taking Texas, am I? Yeah, I'm taking Texas. I'm taking Texas to win, and I'm taking them to win out and eventually get to the Big 12 championship game and maybe possibly even win that game. Is Arch Manning going to be back? We will see. By the way, Malik Murphy has a great deep ball if you haven't seen him play. Oregon State at Colorado is also happening this weekend at Colorado in prime time. I meant to say prime town, but anyway, we'll move past that. Notre Dame at Clemson, that's another one. Notre Dame, I think, beats Clemson in Clemson this weekend. I think Notre Dame improves their record and still remains at only 2 losses. A&M at Ole Miss. That's going to be a fun one. I think that Ole Miss is going to get the job done. You're playing this game at home. Might be a tough one, but you're going to eventually come out with the W. You have Oklahoma and Oklahoma State playing. The battle for Bedlam. You're playing in Stillwater on Saturday night. This is going to be a fun one. Oklahoma coming off a loss. Oklahoma State coming off a big win. Oklahoma State had a tragic start to the year, but now guess what? They only have 2 losses. This is a 5-2 team that could easily – I'm not going to say easily, but they could easily – they have Oklahoma on upset watch this weekend. And it's going to be a fun one to watch. It's going to be at night, the battle for Bedlam, the last battle for Bedlam that we're going to see annually. Maybe we'll see it in the future. Who knows? But this is going to be a fantastic game, guys. And I guess it's going to be a fantastic game, guys. And I'm very excited to see it. And don't be surprised if Oklahoma State, them Cowboys, they come out shooting them pistols. They come out and win. Because guess what? It's very, very possible. Washington is going to be playing at USC. I think Washington wins this game. I don't really want to touch on that game too much. Mizzou at Georgia. Now, how about it? How about the trio and Brady Cook? How about it, man? You got Brady Cook, you got Luther Burden, Theo Weiss Jr. You got Theo Weiss Jr., who I didn't even have on my radar this upcoming year, and now he's playing some fantastic ball. It's going to be a good game, and I think that Missouri, they end up playing well in the first half, but I do eventually think that Georgia pulls away with this game. You look at Georgia's next 3 games. Now, if you were going to ask me. If you would have asked me a week ago if I thought that Georgia was going to go unscathed over the next 4 games when you have teams like Florida, Ole Miss, Missouri, I just wouldn't have said so. And Tennessee, by the way, I wouldn't have said that they would have went unscathed. I wouldn't have said so. But now seeing what Georgia did to Florida this past weekend in Jacksonville, I think my mind's changed, guys. I think they might win out, but we'll see. I think they win this weekend at home. Missouri has to go to Georgia. It's not going to go in their favor, and Georgia wins another one. UCLA at Arizona, watch out. The Arizona Wildcats are going to upset the UCLA Bruins this upcoming weekend. This Arizona Wildcat team is hot, and they're going to play fantastic ball on Saturday, and they're going to win against UCLA. Arkansas at Florida is going to be a good one, man. They're playing in the swamp. I don't see Arkansas winning that game, so I'm taking none other than the Florida Gators. Jack State at South Carolina. Now, this is my team. The Jack State Gamecocks. Do they go in to Davis Wade Stadium this upcoming weekend? And do they beat none other than the South Carolina Gamecocks? I'm not sure, but I'm going to roll with my gut. I'm going to roll with my team and pick none other than the Jack State Gamecocks. I can't say the word, but they are the kicking chickens. Now, I can't say it. Dad, do you remember earlier in the year when I was telling you about the new Dad, I was telling my dad earlier in the year about Jack State's new helmets they came out with, their alternate helmets, the kicking chickens. Now I can't say it. I can't say it live. I'm just gonna mouth it. But I really wish they were wearing those helmets this weekend. The all white, that would just look fantastic. Now I'm gonna go with Jack State. I think we pull off the upset at South Carolina. I think we pull it off. Now, it's going to be a fun one. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be fun to watch. But them Jack State Gamecocks are going to take over South Carolina. I've got a couple buddies of mine going. Shout out to Callie Stewart and Hayden Montgomery. Y'all have fun there. But I would like to say, go Gamecocks and stay cocky. Now, this show is presented to you by J&K Tire. You can go down to J&K Tire and steal, and you can get $10 off of your next purchase if you mention the code Hayden Coker Show. Just mention the code, the Hayden Coker Show, and you can get $10 off of your next service. Are you wanting to reset your vehicle to show room condition? Well, Tyler Meads at A Mobile Details got you covered with professional-grade ceramic coatings, paint enhancements and corrections, and full interior and exterior details. You can call him now at 256-458-9949. That's 256-458-9949 or message AIM Mobile Detail on Facebook. Hey, football fans, if you need a lawnmower, a tractor, or an implement, then you can go see my friend Alex Farmer at Alabama Tractor in the best little city of Asheville, Alabama. Alabama Tractor specializes in Kubota brand machines and equipment along with other brand items as well. They have a huge parts and service department to keep your machines up and running year in and year out. You can go see Alex and check out their large inventory and ask about their 0% financing. Alabama Tractor is located at 275 6th Avenue, Asheville, Alabama. You can reach Alex at 205-594-7000. That's 205-594-7000. Check us out on Facebook at Alabama Tractor, Asheville at Alabama Tractor. You can trust their machines and equipment to work just as hard as you do. And that's just the bottom line, guys. Go down there and they'll get you fixed up. Have you heard about the new seasonal sandwich at Chick-fil-A? The new honey pepper pimento cheese chicken sandwich is a twist on the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, and it features an original chicken fillet drizzled with honey, topped with pimento cheese, and served on a warm toasted bun with pickled jalapenos. Very good sandwich. You need to go down and try it before it leaves Chick-fil-A forever on November the 11th. You need to go down there quick and get it. Now, for our final segment, I'm breaking down Alabama and LSU. I'll make it quick for you guys. Don't worry. Alabama, tough season. If you would have asked them in week 3, oh, man, this is a 2-3 loss, 4-loss team. Now, Alabama has lost one game with LSU on the schedule, some cupcakes, and then Auburn. Can Alabama get it done this weekend at Bryant-Denny Stadium? Hold on. Jaden Daniels' LSU team has the number one offense in the SEC. Number one offense in the SEC is going into Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday night. Will they come out of Bryant-Denny Stadium with a W? Keep in mind, best offense in the SEC. Now, top five in the nation. Can they get it done on Saturday night? No. The Alabama Crimson Tide are going to win Saturday night, and they're going to beat LSU by the score of 31-27. I don't mean to put that lightly, guys. The Alabama Crimson Tide are a legit contender. They could legit make the college football playoffs. They could legit win the national championship this year. Will they do that? We'll see. You should stay tuned. The Hayden Coker Show will have they will have coverage. We're going to have coverage for you guys all throughout the year. We're going to be live every Monday night at 6 o'clock. You can catch the Hayden Coker Show Top 25 every Sunday around noonish. I know this past weekend I had to make it a little bit later. I had some stuff going on during the day. But let me just tell you this, guys. The Hayden Coker Show is covering college football all year long, and you can catch it right here on my Facebook, or you can catch it on YouTube at the Hayden Coker Show 2.0. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Wherever you're watching, whether it's Facebook Live or YouTube Live, I highly appreciate you. Y'all have a fantastic week, And dare I say, Roll Tide, go Jack State and stay